Hi.
Hi,
Oh, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you sharing some time. I feel like you've got a lot going on right now.
I do. I have quite a bit going on. I have a 6-month-old baby,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a 4-year-old, and we have a puppy, and we are renovating our house.
Oh
So
my
we are
gosh.
out of it for 6 months. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'm in my car because, like, where we're staying, there's like not a quiet spot.
But thank you again for joining me today, Sterling. I would
hmm
love for you to introduce yourself to all of the dancers who are watching now and who are going to watch, and then we'll just get the conversation started.
Absolutely. So my name is Sterling Hyltin, and I was a principal dancer with New York City Ballet. I retired a little bit over 2 years ago, and I just am a full-time mom mostly now, but I'm also on faculty at School of American Ballet, and I'm training to be a repetiteur for the George Balanchine Trust.
Mm. Amazing. That's really special. I just started as the dietitian for SAB this past September.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. It really is a special place. And I'm very,
Mhm.
very impressed with just everything Aisha has done to really um, set forth these wellness initiatives for the dancers.
Yes, for sure. It's very holistic now. It's not only about ballet, it's really about the well-being of the students and taking even just dorm students, taking care of their needs in a specific way.
Yeah.
So it's really, really wonderful.
hmm Well, to backtrack a little bit, when you were really in your full-time schedule just a few years ago, I am very curious to hear if there were any major obstacles that you experienced. And of course, becoming a mom, that places a whole new obstacle for us as
Mhm.
dancers anyway. So
Mhm.
we could talk about that as well, but I'm curious what major obstacles you experienced and how you were able to overcome them in your professional career.
I, I think really the major obstacle was um, eating enough,
Mm-hmm.
because you are dancing all day long. Um, so if there, of course, there's obstacles right and left here and there, but I think that um, nutrition, specifically speaking to nutrition, it's everything. And I've been so blessed in my life to have a mother who taught me a lot about nutrition, and I really credit my mother and what she taught me about nutrition and vitamins and eating enough and well balanced, that I never had an injury. I never missed a single season at New York City Ballet. I danced every season, every rehearsal period, every tour, didn't miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I really think she just taught me so much about how to eat. And in saying that, even though I had those tools, it still felt hard to get all my calories in. It felt really hard to get it to do it right, even with all that knowledge. And I sort of had that head start that some people don't have. So I think really that I had to really realize I had to always have healthy snacks around, and sometimes high calorie, like I really kind of had some unhealthy high calorie snacks around too, because you just sort of needed something. Sometimes I felt like I could barely get home because I was just like such low blood sugar from
Mm-hmm.
dancing all day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was really a challenge, was finding the balance. And I also found that I really had I would get a lot of adrenaline for shows. I would be very, very
Yeah.
nervous. And it would really be harder if I had not eaten enough that day.
Mm-hmm.
I really needed to make sure I had a full belly going into at least putting my makeup on for the show. I had to really have just eaten something very substantial,
Mm-hmm.
um, so that my adrenaline wouldn't just like take over my muscles, essentially.
Yeah. You bring up like three actually points that I want to pick at a little bit.
hmm
The first being a degree of underfueling being one of the most, well, the biggest obstacle that you really face in your professional career. And we also see this as being the most common struggle that a lot of dancers face, particularly the unintentional underfueling. I think that,
Mhm.
especially, I mean, even in the work that I do at To The Point Nutrition, there's a big emphasis on, dismantling what I call dancer diet culture and those messages that dieting is going to help us, with our bodies, etc.
Mhm.
With that being said, there is a large, arguably larger subset of dancers that are not subscribing to diet culture, but instead are still struggling to get enough in just because of the nature of their career, of
Yes.
dancing a lot, of being in the studios all day, of having rehearsals go later than they originally expected. And what I notice a lot of dancers will struggle with or not necessarily realize is that even just one day of not eating enough can really set you back for the subsequent days that follow. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
that deficit adds up, it builds, it becomes deeper, 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 deeper into a larger deficit. And that's where a lot of dancers, like you experienced, will realize, like, even if it's during performance time, you might have a lot of adrenaline, but you're having your body run solely off of adrenaline doesn't allow you to feel good in the short
No,
term or the long term.
that's exactly right. And I think it even doesn't help you perform well. At the end of the day, it's like I felt like I couldn't control myself. I
Mm.
didn't feel
Hmm.
grounded, if that
Hmm.
makes any
Hmm.
sense. I didn't feel calm. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, obviously that's what adrenaline does, but it was really exacerbated if I had not had something really substantial and well balanced, you
Yeah.
know, at least right before I started putting on my stage makeup. I mean, I would have to digest a little bit, but there's that. But I think that nutrition is really everything. And I think even raising, if anybody who has children knows, you give them a donut and you're going to pay for it as a parent, just
Mm.
their behavior changes, everything changes. So it's just very, it's very obvious, especially even just as a parent now,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
how quickly it affects everything.
Yeah. The energy crash, right?
Yes, and
Um,
I think another thing too, sorry to interrupt you, is that, when you're young, a teenage, when you're really dancing, when you're pre-professional and then first a professional, you're so young, you feel so invincible. And it's hard to really listen to the nutrition aspect to an extent because you think, oh, I can overcome everything because I'm young and I can eat what I want and I can do this, but it really does affect your performance and your
mhm.
day to day.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. And it sets you up for injury, right? It's
mhm.
like you said, you were able to successfully move through all of your seasons, which is amazing, by the way, as a professional dancer, uninjured, able to move through your performances. That's incredible. Another thing that you said that I wanted to touch on was the benefit of having the positive messaging around nutrition and food
Mhm.
out of the studio, right? That really helped to kind of set a baseline for you
Mhm.
where even if you were met with unsupportive messages like eat less, dance better, like that false narrative, right?
Mhm.
You would be able to navigate it because you had a framework. And this is where I really credit the work that SAB is doing, just having it's okay.
So sorry.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Okay, sorry.
Um, I credit the work SAB is doing with having, nutrition as such a major topic in their dancers training and then other schools as well. I don't think all schools are quite there yet, but it really is so important what these dancers are hearing in regards to, how food is playing into their performance.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I 100%. And I think that of course there's a culture, and it also stereotype and a culture both that go with ballet and how you should look and stuff. But I think the most important conversation to have is that when you are a professional ballet dancer, you have to eat a ton of food. I
Yeah.
mean, you you do. And if you
Hmm.
don't think you do, you're wrong, and
Hmm.
you'll get hurt most
Yeah.
likely. And it
Yeah.
is something I stress, having done this my whole life, ballet my whole life, and seen, knowing from myself, but seeing what's happened to some other people maybe. And I think that my word of caution is just to always fuel yourself.
Yeah.
You have to, and if you don't, it just really you only hurt yourself.
Hmm.
And I think that um, it's funny, when I first started dating my husband, he thought he was going to lose weight because he's not a dancer. He was like, "Great, I'm just going to lose so much weight because she's probably like eats appetizers," and like he
Hmm.
like gained like 10 pounds at
Hmm.
the beginning because he was like, wow, these dancers eat a lot. And he'd go out with my
Yeah.
friends and he was just couldn't believe it. So,
Yeah.
um, you really, you have to fuel yourself
Yeah.
and you have to listen to your body.
Absolutely. And I'm
So,
so happy that you're really saying all these words. I have a lot of students that follow me and that really hone into a lot of these resources that I share. And it's most important for them to hear because
mm-hmm.
having someone not just say it, but also model these types of habits. And the proof is in the pudding. Again, I keep going back to this, but for you to have such an injury-free career, really exemplifies so much about the role of eating enough and
Mm-hmm.
fuel. So to shift gears a little bit, I am curious to hear about how you have incorporated more balance, or how you encourage your students to incorporate balance so that things don't feel a bit overwhelming, or even feeling like we're headed towards burnout in the studio, because that could be something that's common too with a lot of our pre-professionals.
I think that something that I really try to talk about in my classroom is, I mean, even the analogies you give that sometimes naturally will come to your head when you're teaching, make sure it's well-rounded.
Yeah.
And it's not all ballet. And there's times where you have to just stop and ask. I have stuff to stop and ask my students, like, are you breathing? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe just if you smile just a little bit, I think your whole body will relax.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, or it's hard because there is an age gap. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of that, but I think that I think it's really hard to find balance in ballet.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough to have always done something other than ballet when I was very young.
Yeah.
So it put me into a professional, um, when I was a professional, it put me in the mindset of being a little bit more well-rounded.
Yeah.
And even saying that, I think about my 20-year career at New York City Ballet, and I'm like, I don't think I was that well-rounded. I
Mm.
like really just danced
Mhm.
all the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And and I encourage, if I encourage more, I wish more that I took like a class, an art class on our night off or something like that on a Monday night.
Mhm.
I wish I did, or a cooking class, or did something, I did something else. I wish I had done that
Mhm.
more. Um,
Mhm.
so I think there's more classes offered than when I was a little younger. Now it's a little bit easier, but I just really encourage that. I encourage, when it's a layoff, not to keep dancing constantly.
Mhm.
It is okay, especially once you are a professional, to take some time off, because you've reached a point where you have danced for long enough that it's like getting back on a bike.
Mhm.
As long as when you start back slowly and don't try to do a full class in the day and all your rehearsals. Like, that's not intelligent either, right? That's not really wise. So I think that make sure you take time off and then start back slowly, and you'll find that you just come back stronger. And especially when you're off, make sure you get those calories in, because you're going to need a reserve when season starts,
Mhm.
or once
Mhm.
you're dancing a lot in your classes and going to school during the day.
Yeah.
That's all a lot
Yeah.
on adolescents, and then
Mhm.
pre-professionals and professionals.
Yeah. Absolutely. And also just like recognizing, I think a lot of dancers can recognize that doing other things doesn't have to be expensive or a lot. I mean, even just reading a book
Yes.
or getting into music or uh, I recommend like knitting for
Mm,
dancers, just small activities that don't even necessarily mean leaving your home.
yeah,
I agree with you. I think there's more options available now. There's a lot more like online. There are just ways that dancers can broaden their education
hmm,
and whether it's through masterclass or anything like that. But I do agree. I think that having that balance from a young age is really helpful. So again, even if like parents are watching this, to just start to encourage that
for
ballet
sure.
can be most of your life and most of your day, but just also have some other things to fall back on, because taking time away from the studio, whether you have to for an injury or if you're sick or it's just or you need a mental health day, it's nice to have something else to be able to fill your time.
It's true. You need that, and I think that parents really, really can help with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. I mean, one funny thing my parents would do is they'd come visit me in New York, and they wouldn't really come to all my shows.
Mm.
They would come to the maybe the one ballet that they sort of flew up to see, but the other nights they went on a date and
Yeah.
they went and did something else, or my mom was like, "I'll see you when you're home. It's just too late for me," or like, "I'm here to see you. I'm here to see Sterling." My daughter,
Uh-huh.
I'm not here to see Sterling the ballerina,
Mm. Mm.
24/7. I'm here to see you. I'm here to have dinners with you. And um, so that's something that I've been lucky with wonderful
Yeah.
parents who have really guided me in this way. And also my mom who's taught me about nutrition. But, I think it starts young that you have to um, guide your child to um, know there's more to life.
Mm. Yeah.
And I was lucky that in my career, I didn't have too many dancing challenges. I
Mm-hmm.
was blessed with more of like an ectomorph physique
Mm.
and or blessed for ballet, I guess.
Right. Right.
And I just dancing came very easily to
Yep.
me. And I've had a lot of challenges since I've retired where I feel like I haven't done anything other than
Yeah.
dance. Suddenly driving a car every day and taking care of children. And I just feel like I have been on the steepest learning curve.
Mm. Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a lot of answers to that, when you're dancing a lot and you start young and everything's very young, for the career. But I think a lot of my hardships have happened more now. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even call them hardships, just obstacles and
Yeah.
challenges and learning curves. And I guess what I'm saying is like everybody faces them and
Mm-hmm.
faces these things. And whether or not they happen through dance, you know, um, they're just going to happen to different people at different times for different reasons. And that's normal,
Yeah.
and that's just life. That's what makes life exciting and how you grow. And so it builds character.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
think there's a lot of value to that, right? A lot of value
yeah,
to just understanding and recognizing that change is gonna happen. And I can also relate to motherhood, especially just being one of the biggest life changes that I really had to and continue. I have an 8-year-old now, and I'm
mm-hmm,
still continuing to figure out the balance thing. Like,
mm-hmm,
how can I do things for me that are going to make me, feel at ease, like during my day. For me, that's either taking a class or doing some Pilates or doing
mm-hmm.
some breath work or whatever it might be, but also have the time to be with my kids and then also run a practice. So it's exhausting, but we
Yeah,
figure it out and we do it.
yeah. Well, you do a good job, that's for sure. I feel like I am still trying to figure out
No, you're
any sort
doing a
of
good
balance
job.
with motherhood, but I haven't taken a ballet class since I was first became pregnant with my
Wow.
second, who's 6 months old,
Yeah.
as I said.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to kind of get back because you realize it's like a meditation for
Oh,
you.
yeah. Yeah.
And no matter what for the rest of your life, even though you find more balance, you do keep wanting to return to it, I think,
Yeah.
because your body does know it and your body kind of craves it
Oh my
after
gosh.
doing it for so
Yeah.
long.
Yes.
So I'm eager to kind of once we're a little settled, um,
Mm-hmm.
be
Mm-hmm.
able to just take a ballet class again, even if
I
it's
know.
just bar.
Yeah.
But then
No, I
maybe,
hear you.
I always believe the best is yet to come.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways, just my little ballet class, but being mom and then teaching at SAB, like it's just a
Mm-hmm.
really good balance.
Yeah.
So I think I'm looking forward to it to being a little bit more stable
Yes.
once we're
Yeah.
back at home. But yeah.
Yeah, not having your home really kind of lifts the challenge up a notch, right? Because
Hmm.
you don't have that comfort to go back to. And I think as dancers, we do thrive when we have some sort of returning comfort, whether it's your house or the studio, wherever it might be. So I feel you in regards
Hmm.
to just feeling a little like displaced or maybe a little disheveled. That is the right
Hmm.
word. I'm
Yeah.
not
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Both.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Sterling, this was wonderful. I don't know if you have any last parting messages to share, but you shared some really great, insightful words for the dancers, but also the parents out there, because that was really, really inspiring to just hear how they can encourage and promote their dancers to build more sustainable careers.
Absolutely. And I think the best way to be a balanced dancer, besides sort of the constant goal of being more well-rounded and thinking about other things than just ballet. Don't let it all consume you, but also when you are doing ballet, only compare yourself to yourself.
Mm,
And
yeah.
um, did I do better at that step than I did yesterday?
Hmm.
Did I? Because if you start looking at everybody else, we all have different strengths,
Yeah.
and you have strengths too. And don't
Hmm.
forget that.
Hmm.
When you're dancing and you're in that room and you're looking in the mirror or you're looking at somebody else, like just remember you have strengths too. And that person you're looking at also has weaknesses.
Mm,
So it's better just to compare yourself to yourself and keep that mantra of I have strengths too.
mm.
Um, because it is competitive and it is hard. And that's even something you can carry with your life, even if you're not taking a ballet class. So, um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
just give yourself credit.
Oh, I love that. Really, really insightful, Sterling. Thank you so much for sharing your
Yes.
time with us today. I appreciate this.
Thank you for having me, Rachel.